Here we go. All Boys Are Blue by George M. Johnson. Warning, material of an adult nature. This literature is not intended for minors. Viewer discretion is advised. I am respectfully requesting that all the minors leave the room for the next 10 minutes. While the minors are walking out, let's take a look at the syllabus. As you can see, All Boys Are Blue was a part of last year's 9th grade English 1 curriculum at Washington High. This is a required read if you are a part of this class. Parents, do you know what your children are reading? Let's check out these excerpts and find out. 3, 2, 1, go.
Losing my virginity twice. I never daydreamed about sex with another boy. When I did think about sex, I was a girl having sex with a boy. He reached his hand down and pulled out my dick. He quickly went to giving me head. I just sat back and enjoyed it, as I could tell he was too. He then came up and asked me if I wanted to try on him. I said sure. I began and he said, "Watch your teeth." So I slowed down and took my time and luckily got into a good rhythm. My best to act dominant like my favorite porn star. I was an actor and this was my movie. His body felt great in my mouth. For the first few minutes, we dry humped and grinded. I was behind him with my stomach on his back as we kissed. I had one point of reference though, and that was my 7+ years of watching pornography. I put some lube on and got him up on his knees. And I began to slide into him from behind. I tried not to force it because I imagined that it would be painful. So I eased in, slowly until I heard him moan. As we moved, I could tell he was excited. We went at it for about 15 minutes before I started to get that feeling. Weakness in the legs, numbness in the waist. I finally came and let out a big moan, to the point where he asked me to quiet down for the neighbors. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated. Then he also came.
This is homosexual pornography in the form of stories. Sick.
We took each other's clothes off, fast but deliberate. After, he told me to lie down on the bed. He asked me to turn over while he slipped a condom on himself. My heart immediately started to race. Nervously, I asked him what he was doing, and he said, "You," but then told him I had never been to the bottom. He looked at me and said, "Well, that's about to change tonight, but this was my ass." And I was struggling to imagine someone inside me. And he was large, but he had been enjoying anal sex before I ever came home. I listened and got on my stomach. He got on top and slowly inserted himself into me. I can't say that I didn't enjoy it because I did. In those few minutes though, I can say that he was gentle. His aim wasn't to hurt me, and my aim was for him to be pleasured too. He didn't last long inside of me, thankfully. He gave me a kiss before he pulled out. I didn't stay too long, nor did I masturbate after. This book will touch on sexual assault, including molestation, loss of virginity, homophobia, racism, and anti-blackness. Within this audiobook, the word nigger or nigga appears, sometimes in full and sometimes abbreviated. If you don't identify as Black, African American, or queer, don't use these slurs in full. In the eyes of society, I was still a nigger. I was never called a nigger because that person isn't outright calling you a nigger or a faggot or both. A country nigger from the South, then with that face that said, "You niggas ought to be ashamed."
Is this a CRT book? Well, let's let the author answer this question.
And frankly, I'm not even sure if it fits with the themes of blackness or queerness or critical race theory in this book, nor do I really care, because Black babies are born into oppression despite any additional marginalizations. It's important that I say this because the white community has long prevented Black progress in every arena. The statements that explain why we needed Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, and every other Black activist over 100 years later, because freeing the slaves didn't really free us. But about the dangers of interacting with non-Black people, because they will assume the worst of you as a Black boy. A God-fearing church-going woman who thought white people were the devil, and she used to say it proudly.
This is just a handful of statements by the author that refer to the oppressed, the oppressors, and victimhood. Believe me, there are many, many more statements, just like these, that are in this book.
I was about 13 years old when it happened. You were a cool cousin, older by about 4 or 5 years. We all went to bed in me and G's room. We had a bunk bed at the time, and G slept on the top bunk while you and I slept on the bottom. You then asked me, "Do you feel that?" "Yeah," but I laughed and said, "Get your hand off my butt." You giggled. "That's not my hand." "You're lying," I said. You then placed both hands on my hips as we lay side by side. There was still something poking me. You were fully erect at this point. I was nervous. We gonna get in trouble. You then grabbed my hand and made me touch it. It was the first time I had ever touched a penis that wasn't my own. By now, we were both touching each other. I tried my best not to enjoy it because you were my cousin. You then told me to get up and be very quiet, that we were going to go downstairs for a few minutes. I finally got up from the bed and you soon followed. We both quietly headed down the steps to my basement. We sat there for about 10 minutes before you finally stood up. You then had me stand up with you. Then you stood in front of me fully erect and said, "Taste it." At first, I laughed and refused. But then you said, "Come on, man, taste it. This is what boys like us do when we like each other." I finally listened to you. I only did that for about 45 seconds before you had me stop. Then you got down on your knees and told me to close my eyes. That's when you began oral sex on me as well. It was the strangest feeling in the world. Unfortunately, I didn't have a handbook to learn sexuality as a queer boy. My crash course was happening right in front of me, and despite the guilt I was feeling, there was also a euphoria. After a minute or so, you stopped. You then laid me on the ground and you got on top of me. You began humping me, back and forth, back and forth. You eventually got up off me and told me to come to the bathroom, that you wanted to show me one more thing. You turned on the light and closed the door. You began stroking yourself in front of me. I just stood there nervous because I didn't know what to expect next. You said, "Just keep watching, Matt." So I stood there and I watched you for several minutes. Then you began to moan slightly. I took a step back because I didn't know what was about to happen, and then it did. You ejaculated into the toilet in front of me. I knew I didn't like girls that way, and the first thing folks would ask you if you inquired about sex was whether you were fucking or not, and I wasn't. You ejaculate was shocking. I remember you telling me, "It's semen. One day when nobody is around, you should do this until you get this feeling you never felt before and bust." I looked at you and said, "I can't do that. I'm not old enough yet."
All boys aren't blue. You just got exposed. This book is reprehensible. It has no place in our schools. Definitely not in the classroom or curriculum. The Board of Ed just sits idly by, does nothing. I have yet to hear anything about these dirty books being addressed by the board. It has been 518 days since I first addressed the board about these dirty books. You say you care about children? Yeah, right. Well, how about let's start here. The Board of Ed requires every teacher of every subject of every grade to make public on the board's website every book, every supplemental material, every video, movie clip that they would use in the classroom for teaching their curriculum. Now that would be transparency. This is to candidates and elected officials. This is a major issue. There is no hiding on this one. Take the side of truth and help us get these dirty books out of our schools. Thank you.
I have another 4 minutes. I would like to ask the board, it's been 518 days since I originally sat here and showed you these dirty books. And look at you guys. What have you done? I haven't heard one thing. I would like for someone to tell me. 518 days today.
Get your head up.
And you put them back on the shelves. You put them back on the shelves.
Y'all can't even
Look
at
up
them.
at us.
Are they Christians?
No.
Are you call yourselves a Christian? How dare you make mockery?
And teach our children this.
I wonder if you taught your children this kind of
At
trash.
least look at us.
I
Instead of
wonder
taking your
if
head
you
down.
say it's their race, they can't help it, that's the way they're brought up, and that's bull too. Because I'm telling you right now, I substitute with Margot. I worked with Troy's dad, and I know these people didn't talk or act that way. They showed the respect, which you're not showing our children and our grandchildren, and shame on you.
These are mandatory reads. You make the children do it. It's ridiculous.
Penny, I call on you to step down tonight. Step down. We have people in this room that
It's ridiculous. I'm telling you, there ought to be a law against teaching children this crap. Would you have your own children read this stuff? Remember, youth, it says young adult. We don't have young adults in school. We don't have adults. They're children. And you're feeding them this? The foul language? The homosexuality? The sexual situations? The LGBTQs? It's time to clean this stuff up. And I say now. I would ask the superintendent to resign.
Yeah.